is a happy or a satisfied customer the same as a good customer?
Hello everybody, welcome to episode 28 of the vlog, and this week we are back with another roundtable discussion, this time with the conversion team, who are debating a really hot topic in the industry right now, and that is, should businesses be optimizing their websites for commercial goals, or should they be optimizing for greater customer experience? In other words, is a greater customer experience the key to healthy profits and success? Or will there always be a need to optimize for more traditional transactional metrics such as revenue and conversion? This was a super interesting conversation. It went loads of different directions and some really great insight that I know you're going to hopefully take a lot from. This debate occurred between some of our conversion team and Rob McLaughlin from Loop Horizon and Colin Tate Crowell from Chameleon. So a massive thank you to those guys for getting involved. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. We kick off the conversation with Rob, who runs us through his thoughts on why he believes many businesses are starting to move towards optimizing for more customer-centric aims.
It is understandable, like a move away from perhaps like a bit of a myopic view of just like conversion rates or single metrics as success. One of the things we see so often is a desire for experimentation and some form of improvement. And we always search out for, is there a commercial objective here? Sort of first of all. And then I'd probably say more and more recently, is that commercial objective matched with sort of a customer experience goal? And probably there's some alignment there, like between a customer getting what they want and the business getting what they want.
The interesting thing I think about is like, so on the one hand, I completely get it and I completely support it, because if you say, for example, you're optimizing a site and you're focusing only on conversion or predominantly on conversion, it's very easy to do things like never ever bother to look at the account like login area or something like that, or look at the help content on the website. And that's the sort of worst case scenario, that you're kind of myopically focused on this conversion goal, and then you forget that actually people are coming to a website for other reasons and stuff like that. So that it makes a lot of sense in that respect, that you need to think about the total experience and not just those be about directly commercial things. But on the other hand, experimentation works really well because of the statistics and the data behind it and things like that. And so whichever way you look at it, if you're talking about just trying to optimize for a sort of a fairly nondescript kind of brand experience or something like that, then there's no way you can do that without really losing sight in some way of that statistics and data.
I feel like it's a false choice. It really is this amazing term that can mean anything you want it to mean, depending on who you're talking to. So for instance, if you want to talk about conversion in terms of like checkout, then obviously you're going to use like tried and true tactics. But if you're speaking to, for instance, a CEO who's looking to raise, for instance, their financial services company's net promoter score, then you can easily bring in experimentation practices or even the language of like customer experience optimization. It doesn't mean you have to give up the tactics that help you logically validate that this variation, for example, resulted in a better outcome than that variation. There's no one disagrees with the power and importance of conversion rate optimization. It's just that it's not resonating with certain decision makers. So if you go to that executive board and you say, you're not going to reach statistical significance because of X, Y, and Z, you're going to lose a lot of attention there. So how do you speak about the practice of optimization and experimentation in a way that resonates with these people that are holding the budgets? And where is that budget going?
Yeah, I think the really interesting thing there, though, is once you start to do that, you all of a sudden start going into a world where you're effectively kind of in the realms of the big four management consultancies, because you're starting to really talk about business transformation around, like, moving towards more of a customer experience kind of thing. And
well, I think that's really interesting, Johnny, because why wouldn't we ask the question of is a happy or a satisfied customer the same as a good customer or a profitable customer?
Yeah,
exactly, because a lot of companies at the moment are talking about LTV, the lifetime value, and I guess having a happy customer means that then you're going to have that customer coming back. So realistically, then you've got to think, is it more important to have a massive increase in your conversion rate, or is it better to have a massive increase in like your NPS scores or lifetime value, so then you've got more of that customer coming back and then purchasing more goods on your website?
It's to do as well with where you are looking within that funnel. I think it's hard to say, this is going to increase conversion rate when you're looking at something sort of on the homepage or earlier in that customer journey. It's not really going to impact that conversion rate. You're just really trying to improve the journey for that customer and sort of understand sort of the journey mapping for the business, really.
Also, like, customer experience it's customer experience. It's not website experience. Yeah. Like, are we supposed to be asking the question, do we care about the overall customer experience? I mean, whether it's on the forecourt or with the website or on the phone or in a contact center or in a shop, who has permission to ask the sort of question of, like, are we talking about customer experience, or are we actually talking about like a digital acquisition journey experience or like something far more linear?
I think it's challenging for businesses because in a way it's a bit of a leap of faith. In a way, a lot of what you do, there is no demonstrable ROI to it. You're effectively sort of saying, let's just like really, really look after our customers because that is the right thing to do, and that is what will ultimately deliver us, like, loyalty and stuff in the long term, which will have a benefit, which is all absolutely true and is all, and is the right way to think about it. But to go and try and sell that to a board and shareholders who are used to here's money and here's the return on that money for this specific thing is a very different way of thinking. And it's not like somebody who would be buying CRO could go, oh yeah, do that, because there's a whole massive bigger conversation at the real senior level to go, this is a different philosophy, it's a different like way of approaching how we do the business. And so you've suddenly got yourself into this very complex political conversation about moving from being shareholder centric to customer centric and stuff like that.
I'm not sure. I disagree. I mean, I don't understand why we can't have metrics behind customer lifetime value. I don't understand why you can't say that customer experience can't be quantified. I think if you go to that CEO or that board and you say, listen, we know that if we can have a repeat buyer, then the value of this customer is X, Y, and Z, right? So we're going to have both long-term metrics, broader metrics that look at customer experience. We're gonna call them X, Y, and Z. This is how we're going to measure them. But at the same time, we're also going to evaluate like friction points in short and medium term processes or funnels, right? So these are not exclusive things that we have to argue about. I feel like what we have to say is, like, we have a distinct practice and capability that no one else does, which is digital experimentation. And we use that in ways that drive conversion, engagement, revenue, and we can look and compare both short-term goals, like checkout, versus like whether or not you have 10 times word of mouth referral. Like, did this customer give this much value back in other ways? So again, it's really just about semantics, and I don't think we should get into like fighting one another about like you have to do this or you have to do that. I mean, God, we have an incredible power to use.
Rob, you're what you do is more generally towards the realm of personalization. Do you think there's any sort of real difference between personalization and experimentation within the realms of this conversation, or is it the objectives of what you're trying to do and it's the same sort of thing? But
they're definitely going towards the same overall goal, which is better business, happier customers, better P&L. Perhaps personalization or similar throws in an immediate hypothesis to be tested through experimentation, which is, hey, we've got some data / information about customers. I reckon if we use it, we might be able to provide a more relevant and better experience. Let's test that. That creates a bit of a priority or like a burn down list for a lot of the brands that we work with, whether you're a bank, whether you're a telco, where you say, hey, look, let's start off with just treating people we recognize as customers one experience and people we recognize as prospects another. Then let's step into, for the customers, we know you've got this product already, so let's talk about service in context of that, and use our opportunities from a sales side to talk about things that you haven't got already. Putting that through a process of experimentation is even more powerful, and it allows you to do stuff like test what sort of personalization is going to work, right? Because to get the tone right and how direct or sort of explicit / sort of implicit you want to be.
Yeah, we've recently, we often have very immature programs reach out to us at Chameleon for, personalization. And honestly, I just look at the maturity of the program or what stage they're at. And if they haven't built a robust A/B testing program, I really discourage them from moving to personalization, because again, no one disputes, certainly we don't, the power of personalization, but this idea that you can just put out these personalized experiences without having any data to back them up or optimize them is dangerous and crazy in our viewpoint.
I think personalization is incredibly powerful for a lot of businesses, but it's also a bit of a buzz thing where a lot of people just think, oh, we should do some personalization. The biggest opportunity about personalization is lots of frequent visits and, things like a complex product inventory or, different product lines that you're trying to cross sell and things like that. And so they just haven't thought about why, it's like.
I might challenge that a little bit, Johnny, and suggest the bar for personalization might be lower than some people expect. I'd say product recs are pretty high and to the right. That's relatively complicated, although very relevant for some brands. But just recognizing me as a customer versus a prospect, that's pretty low stakes and kind of feels like quite powerful. I mean, why wouldn't every retail bank in the world do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point about actually what we're talking about, really, isn't it? Because really that would benefit a customer experience type objective. Being able to recognize somebody as a customer and treat them slightly differently. And I guess you would probably discount that if you were not thinking of the customer experience angle. Like if you were just thinking how can we use personalization to increase conversion? Then you would potentially ignore that, which I guess is exactly what we're talking about.
I completely agree with the personalization. I think you're then looking at it being more about the customer journey. You really need to understand actually the type of business. Is it a business where they're selling something where people are coming back and doing lots of research before they're committing to making that purchase? So those bigger ticket buys, and it's not necessarily at that point about conversion. It's making sure they do come back, making sure they do come look at your content pages, and it's hard to quantify all metrics to a sort of revenue figure.
I think that's really interesting. Powerful. I think it just depends on the kind of business that it is. If it's a kind of business, then I think, Johnny, what you were saying, if it's one of those ones that someone comes back to do loads of research, or if it's one that you just come on and buy something. So like you're saying, Kaylee, if I was going onto the website loads and I was doing loads of research and stuff, then I'll definitely want it personalized for me, so then I don't have to keep on searching for that thing that I've been looking at. So
I think P&L benefits interesting, right? Because there's two ends of the kind of the swing on that, and reducing cost to serve has probably been on the agenda of every big consumer client that we've ever had, sort of alongside increasing various sales metrics. If someone's bought a product and they've bought the product and they're coming to you for help and support, what do you think what product do you think they're coming for help and support at? You might sell 10 products, and if they've bought one, what's the chance that they're coming for help and support on a product which they haven't bought? Not likely. And very often, whether it's telco, whether it's a bank, kind of trying to avoid someone calling a contact center. So why not ensure that you are putting the help and support content for the product you know they bought front and center. And you could call it personalization if you wanted, but just call it like prioritization. It's very easy for us to talk about the top line numbers, but actually, especially for organizations who are lucky enough, although when you talk to them, it's almost as if it's a burden that they've got so many customers and they've got to service them, and reducing the cost to serve them is a major focus for them.
There we have it. A cracking discussion there on the many pros and cons of focusing on customer-centric goals when it comes to your optimization. Clearly loads to be discussed and debated. If you agreed, disagreed, or have any other thoughts and opinions that you'd like to throw into the mix, then pop them in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you, and the guys will get straight back to you. If you're not already, please do make sure to hit subscribe. There should be a little button down below to catch up with all the rest of our cracking episodes over the past 27, including, why don't you go watch episode 19? That was our last roundtable debate. It included some of our strategists who got together to discuss the future of the digital high street. It was a cracker. I'll see you there, and I'll see you next week.